In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up the different data screens I would love you to use when it comes to tracking your runs. Now, this isn't compulsory, you can do this in different ways. However, this information I'm going to show you is going to give you lots of information that you can use on the runs themselves, as well as an analysis afterwards. This analysis can help you better predict what's going to happen in your race performances and how we can progress training at the right time at the right speed. Now, there are lots of different options around this, and I'm going to show you through different ways you can also do this, and you can have multiple data screen setups that you can then scroll through if you'd like to have additional information as well. The reason we're going to set these up is it does give you the best information and also lets me set up the right information for you so that you can get the best results possible. So let's look at setting up these data screens. So first up, I'm going to hit the top button here, and we're going to open up our run settings. So we're going to, again, hit that same button. Now, initially you can see these data screens that I have. This menu will disappear in just a moment, but you can see they've got 4 different options here. And you can change the layout of these, so you can have anything from 1 to 4 data fields in one screen. I choose to have 4, however, if you have a bit more difficulty with eyesight, you may wish to have 3 or even 2 and just scroll a little bit more. So I'm going to actually head down to my next one. Here we go. So we have our overall time. So this is essentially how long I've been running for in total in the session. Distance, obviously the overall distance of the session. Average pace being average pace of the session so far, and pace, now this is what we can think of as current pace. So this is what in a 3 to 5 second window or so, how fast we're running. This is a really common one that people tend to have, and it's one of the base settings that I was often set on Garmin's. However, it's actually not that useful a lot of the time. With hit and miss GPS signals, doesn't really make too much difference, and it really just distracts people a lot of the time. I have this main screen up, this is screen number 1, but I don't actually look at this very often. This is mostly useful within races, and sometimes in a longer run, if I'm kind of curious about what the average pace is of managing to maintain, especially when things get difficult, it can be quite nice to see how far you've gone, how long you've been running for, and also if your average pace is hitting a level you feel comfortable with. Data screen 2 is where we really see the action and where we're going to use most of the time. Now again, this is the setup that I recommend, the 4 screen setup in this case. Again, you can use this and scroll more, and you can get rid of some of this information, which I'll give you some options for. So initially we have, if I go back up again here, come back over. So we can see here lap time. Now this is similar to the overall timer. This is just for the lap that I'm running in. So if you've set up a workout and you're using that feature, or if you're using the lap button feature down here, then you can see how fast you're running, or how long you've been running, sorry, in that lap, in that time frame. This could be, a 400 meter lap or something like that. Again, lap distance here, relatively straightforward. Again, it's how fast you've been running, or how far you've been running, sorry, since your last lap. Lap pace, now this is the really, really key one. So this is the pace you're running at in the section that you're currently on. So in that 400 meter rep, so you're 400 meters into an 800 meter rep even, how fast you've run for that distance so far. It's not making any assumptions about what you'll do next, but it is telling you what you're currently doing and have been doing for, say, the last 2 minutes or so. Last lap pace at the bottom here. This is a slightly odd one. I just like to see this for effort sessions so I can see if I'm hitting my speeds. It means I haven't got to look at my watch if I'm trying to cross a road. When it beeps up with that lap alert, it tells me information on there, but this can also be quite useful. Other data screens you can go through, again, I have my cadence data on here now. This I find quite useful when it comes to marathoning, especially if I'm starting to struggle in the latter stages, as often we do. Having this information in cadence on it can be really, really boosting, just helping me to keep going and keep focusing on that step rate. You can have other information such as heart rate zone, again, time of day, sometimes quite useful for starting off sessions and giving a rough idea of if I need to get back for an appointment or something like that. But again, options are available. And then lastly, into our map here, again, there's loads of data screens you can add, but those are the main ones I want you to look at. So I'm going to head back up to those. I'm going to get a quick freeze frame. So top one here, 4 zones, timer being the total time, then distance, average pace, and pace. These, I would recommend these 4. You can have them in any configuration that makes sense to you, but those would be screen number 1. Screen number 2 is then lap time, lap distance, lap pace, and last lap pace. Again, any configuration you like, but I'd highly recommend working with those 4 data screens. If you need to get rid of one, the last lap pace is the one to get rid of, and on the previous screen, if you want to get rid of one, get rid of the pace section here. Now, when it comes to actually setting these data screens, let's have a look at how we can do that. So I'm going to head up into our run settings again in here. From there, you've got the data screens is the first thing you come to. And again, this is where you can see lots and lots of options. There's all this other information you can have available to you on the run. Some people love lots of information. Personally, I like to keep it relatively straightforward and simple. Really only use 3 of the data screens. The reason this is the first one as well, rather than this one being actually the one we use most, is that it gives me easy access to the other bits of information I want to see. So I stay in the middle so that I'm only ever one click away from information I might want to see at a quick glance. So we go into this second data screen. We're going to hit the little kind of designed pencil button here, layout here. So this is where we can then change the number of fields we have. So here you can see we've got 4 fields. You can split that slightly differently. You can have even 5 fields in there as well, or even up to 6. Now again, this is a little bit too busy for my liking. I don't need all that information on one screen. I don't really want to see it at a glance. I want to be user friendly. I find 4 is quite a nice number to work with there. Again, you can have 4 layout here as well. Again, different options for that same information. And again, 3, 2, 3, 3. Again, loads of different ways you can set that up. The one I'd recommend, again, is whatever works best for you. This is the one I use. This is the layout I use. So once you've set that, you can then go into your data fields. So then you can select all the different options. So essentially what you look at first is what type of field you would like. So in this case, I'm going to use timer field here because lap time is what we're looking for. So timer, that's the one we saw on data screen number 1. Lap time is the one I'm currently using. Last lap time, again, we saw at the bottom of this same screen. And then average lap time can also be quite a useful one. Again, I don't really find it that useful. The only time I ever find that kind of helpful potentially would be an effort session, but very, very specific circumstances, I wouldn't bother. Elapsed time, this is just a difference. If you're somebody who pauses their watch, which I would really recommend against, then that can be quite useful to give you an overall time session time. Multi-sport time, again, that's quite useful if you're doing triathlons and things or different sports. And overall ahead and behind. So this is useful for racing, but again, I would have maybe different screens if you can use that, or use one of the predetermined preset race timer screens instead. So I'm going to come back out of that, but that's how you can select those. All you do, into your time field, say you want a lap time, hit that there, and that sets. And then when it's flashing, you're ready to scroll on to your next data screen. When you finish setting all those, hit the back button at the bottom here. You can reorder any of these or remove it as well. So if you add something actually you don't really want to have it, you can get rid of that later down the line, or you can reorder it. So here, say you set up the wrong distance and time, which I have done previously. I have set these up wrong before when changing watches. So you can then scroll and just adjust it to wherever you want to have it. I'm going to put mine back in that second spot. Come back out of this again with this bottom button, and then we are good to go.